Well, while Ole was bringing in these makeshift tag teams, 1990 did have its share of great tag teams still in WCW.
Okay, so what we are going to watch along today is the Southern Boys versus the Midnight Express match from the Great American Bash 1990 from beautiful downtown Baltimore. That is on the WWE Network for those of you so inclined, so you can sync it up and watch it along. But for context in this thing, we've done some deep dives on everything the Midnight Express was doing. We had been baby faces since the original Midnight thing from the end of 88 through the end of 89, when in November we turned back heel finally. That was the whole idea. When we came back in June of 89 to WCW, was the idea to establish us as a top team again, as baby faces, because that's how we left, and then find someone and some issue to turn, because we needed long-term to be heels. Everyone was in agreement with this, except Jim Herd then became the stumbling block because he didn't want us to work with any top teams, because he didn't like the Midnight Express, and boy, he didn't like me. So when we turned finally on the Dynamic Dudes because they sucked and he hated them too, and they were the only team he'd let us work with, we ended up kind of switching babyface, as you were, because we were also in Troy, New York. So the height of the Northeastern smart fan emerging scene in the late 80s. The Midnight Express, former World Tag Team Champions, decorated tag team, etc., turns heel and gets a giant, enormous babyface pop because the people hated the babyfaces. So we worked a program with them for a couple months. Then the Rock and Roll Express, Ricky and Robert, came back. And Flair, as booker, specifically booked the Midnight and Rock and Roll on Wrestle War that year, the pay-per-view, because it was in Greensboro. And our job was to go out and do what the Midnight and Rock and Roll did, which we did. But at that point, that's when Flair quit as booker because Herd wouldn't leave him alone. So we couldn't get a fucking run with them again. I was still on the booking team. The committee, as they say. That's when I pitched the thing, because Flair had wanted to get Pillman over as a single, or just Pillman over as a star. So Brian Pillman and Z-Man were a babyface tag team. And we shot an angle right after Flair had quit, right after Wrestle War, with Pillman and Zinc, injured Pillman's throat. We've done a deep dive on this, where after the program was over with, the Pillman was going to come out on top of the Midnight Express and get revenge for us injuring his throat that had been ravaged by childhood cancer. And then Herd and Barnett got together and cut that angle off and didn't air all the things about his injured throat and etc. So the angle with Pillman and Zinc, where we were supposed to get heat on them at the start, win the U.S. tag belts, and then lose in the end, ended up in reverse, because by the time that we got to the pay-per-view at Capital Combat for the U.S. tag title match with Pillman and Zinc, the committee which replaced Flair had been replaced by Ole as the sole booker, and for some reason he put us over and we beat the babyfaces in the blow-off match and won the U.S. tag title back. Then, I think because they wanted to possibly make Pillman a single on his own to get rid of Zinc at that time. I don't know. Then for the next 2 months, we were the U.S. Tag Team Champions, and we were never featured on television. Bobby and Stan were almost never on TV. If we were, maybe we got a win over some job guys every once in a while. Most of the time, we'd be putting over other teams in one of the main event TBS matches. I was doing very little except for interview segments, because Ole didn't like heel color commentators, so he took all of them off, which, by the way, the heel color commentator is what Jim Herd had wanted me to give up managing the Midnight Express for 3 months before that. So if I'd have done that and give up managing, I would have then been off television entirely. It was fucking chaos, right? And in the middle of that was where the Midnight were supposed to be members of the Horsemen, but Herd in Barnett ixnayed that, and that's why I quit as a member of the booking committee. So we come to July 7th, 1990. We're the U.S. Tag Team Champions, but we haven't won a match on TV in 2 months, or even been on television in 2 months. And we are being challenged by the Southern Boys, who have just started on this particular run. They're brand new. And they're the Southern Boys in Baltimore. I know a lot of people say Baltimore is a Southern city, but not where wrestling crowds were concerned, especially in the late 80s and early 90s. They were like Philly and New York. It was the smart fans that were starting to cheer for the heels. So the Midnight Express, beloved team of the smart set, is in Baltimore on pay-per-view, facing a brand new team of guys they don't know who are coming in with a Southern Boy gimmick. And to top it all off, the smart fans were exceptionally kind to us at the time because they knew that we were being jobbed out and mistreated. So even if we set fire to fucking Bambi's mother, we couldn't get any heat because they cheered every time we won a match because we did it so seldom. So this psychology's all fucked up. Would you not agree, Brian? This whole fucking, whole way we got here is all fucked up.
No, WCW 1990 is chaotic.
Yeah. So anyway, we assume we're not dropping the belts because back then they still gave you notice if you were a champion and when you'd be dropping the belt. They wouldn't do that to us till August in the Meadowlands when we dropped them to the Steiners. They told us when we came in an hour before the show, and we were insulted because we didn't mind doing a job for the Steiners, but we had not been given proper notice like you did to a champion that you respected that they were going to be switching the belts. Just another thing. But anyway, so we knew we weren't going to be switching the belts probably, but we didn't know whether we were going to do a DQ or whatever. They didn't tell you the exact finishes back in those days until you got to the show. So when we get there that day, I obviously had a number of ideas because I knew we had to have a good match with the Southern Boys to get them kicked off and hopefully to give us somebody to work with. Because we needed somebody that we wanted to be able to have good matches with, to work a program with. And maybe if, we've had a few matches with these guys, but maybe this will continue if it's good. And this would be a good time now, Brian, if you want to read down the entire card that Ole Anderson booked for the Great American Bash 1990, which we fondly remember for a couple of the matches, but we will quickly recall that we've forgotten several of the others.
Once again, July 7th, 1990, Baltimore, Maryland. Brian Pillman defeated Buddy Landell. Mike Rotunda, the ship captain Mike Rotunda, not the varsity club captain Mike Rotunda, defeated the Iron Sheik. Whew. Doug Furness defeated Dutch Mantell. Here's the one you and I both talked about before that we've forgotten about. Harley Race defeated Tommy Rich.
In 1990.
A big rematch from 1981. Of course, Midnight Express and Southern Boys. We'll talk about that in a moment. Big Van Vader defeated Tom Zink.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Brian Pillman as a single beat Buddy Landell, and Vader just demolished Tom Zink about six weeks after we beat them for the U.S. tag title, so that may show you something there.
The Steiner brothers defeated the Fabulous Freebirds of Jimmy Garvin and Michael Hayes.
Yep, and I so badly wanted to have a good television and pay-per-view program that year with the Steiner brothers because we could fucking have such great matches with them and get heat on them and knew how to work with them, and everybody enjoyed everything, and they were stuck with Garvin and Hayes, and Garvin and Hayes didn't like taking those fucking suplexes. Steiners didn't particularly like giving them to them because they took them like sacks of potatoes. And it was just a style clash, and Jimmy Garvin couldn't stand up to the fucking Steiner brothers physically. And but that's what we were stuck with all summer because Michael was, insinuating himself into the booking periphery at that point.
The Dudes with Attitude, comprising El Gigante, Junkyard Dog, and Paul Orndorff, defeated the Horseman team of Arn Anderson, Barry Windham, and Sid Vicious via disqualification.
If you'd have had a handicap match with Paul Orndorff against Arn Anderson and fucking Barry Windham, that would have been great. But God almighty dog. JYD was as bad as he was going to get at that point. Poor El Gigante was clueless, and then there was Sid.
Lex Luger, the United States champion, defeated Mark Callis with Paulie Dangerously.
That is interesting. Lex Luger versus The Undertaker before he was The Undertaker is an interesting footnote, but I don't think anybody is going to put that match on the Mount Rushmore.
The World Tag Team Champions Doom with Teddy Long defeated the Rock and Roll Express.
And that was, as I recall, pretty good fucking match because obviously Reggie Robert can sell their ass off, and fucking Doom was on the march at that point. So I once again would have loved to have had a program with fucking Rock and Roll, but Doom was, as we've talked about, a fine team at that point.
And then the main event, a match that's been built up for so long and had an injury that delayed it. Sting defeated Ric Flair to become the NWA World Heavyweight Champion.
And that's another one of their fucking rip snorters, but it was delayed. It would have been so much better at Wrestle War. But when you think about it, Wrestle War was in February, March, April, May, June. Sting came back from a fucking torn ACL in 4 months, which is pretty freaky. And still wasn't 100%, but he got by with it.
And that was your card, July 7th, 1990.
So we can see also that besides the Rock and Roll and Doom and Freebirds and Steiners, because the Steiners were over, and obviously Flair and Sting because that was the main event, it was up to us to steal this fucking show out from under, as we usually try to do, anybody but Ric Flair. So, but we were laboring under handicaps. So we thought, okay, we love Tracy Smothers and Steve Armstrong. We're going to do the best we can. I had some ideas going in. We get to the building. And at that point, for a couple years, first Dusty had been letting me do the finishes for the midnight most of the time on the big shows. I'm not talking about who wins or loses. I'm talking about laying it out afterwards. Or, here, you guys are going over, and I needed to be with such and such. Put it together for me, that type of thing. So then that started with really the Fantastics program. And then later on, the thing with the original Midnight was mine, most of that stuff. Then shortly after that, I was involved in the booking committee. So I was doing a lot of finishes, but especially ours. But I didn't have anything concrete, but I wanted to see what Ole wanted us to do. Well, we were already got enough handicaps. So this is when Ole was going to calm things down, get some more credibility back. And also, he didn't want to, I know in hindsight now, he didn't want us to steal too much of the fucking show because Herd would be mad. So he gives us a finish. He said, look, the heels got to be able to beat somebody once in a while without you interfering. Don't use the racket. Don't interfere in the finish. Okay. We don't have to do that, but it's kind of our trademark. And also you're taking away one of the big pops when I take a bump in the finish, when the babyface finally gets a hold of me, right? He said, no, we need to show the heels can beat somebody. Oh, you mean the heels that we're not going to you haven't booked on TV in the past 2 months? Those heels. It could beat plenty of people if you just told them to. So don't interfere in the finish. Don't use the racket. Don't throw the racket in. And here's what Ole came up with. Hey, Stan, you do that karate stuff. Well, fuck the baby face. You're illegal. Throw one of those kicks to the back of his fucking head. Fuck him from outside. That was literally the direction that we got for this fucking match from Ole. So he don't want me to interfere. Don't use the racket. We're going to fuck the baby faces with a karate kick from the illegal guy to the back of the head. Now you guys go put it together. All right, fuck. Well, then I said, all right. We all just sat down, and the Southern boys were happy to be there at that point. And Steve and Tracy, they were great, but neither one of them were really experienced. And they weren't going to fucking, start reinventing the wheel. They're just happy to be there. So we figured out Steve, his main trait was his athleticism. He could do the high cross body, the high clothesline, the big drop kicks. Tracy was a better overall worker, and he had a better memory. If you needed something to be memorized real good or just remembered, probably Tracy instead of Steve. And also because Stan and Steve Kern had in Tennessee in 85 had broken Tracy in, Stan knew Tracy and knew that Tracy had taken some karate. And, of course, Stan had done the same thing. Stan used some karate kicks back then, and I'm not saying that either one of these guys was goddamn Bruce Lee or fucking Chuck Norris, okay? There was no MMA back then. Every guy in the fucking 70s took karate. Stan not only took karate when he worked at a gym, but he ended up doing some training, I think, some teaching. But there were a lot of fucking guys in the 70s after the martial arts movies came out that actually went to these karate schools and had black belts, and they'd be accountants at fucking Merrill Lynch in the daytime, but they had a black belt in Taekwondo or whatever. Stan had trained and was pretty good. Tracy had trained enough to get by on a local level. But we had done in previous matches a little fucking karate zabada with them, and the people liked it. And then we put together a few spots that the baby faces could do to show their athleticism. We knew we had to shine them up and get them over. Then we got a heat spot. And then you didn't call heat. You called heat as it happened. You didn't predetermine heat. It just happened. So we had a few baby face spots. We had a big heat spot. And then we needed the finish to be exciting. And a kick in the back of the head from the illegal guy was not necessarily exciting. So we said, what if, since we weren't really even sure who was going to win this thing, because we're getting beat all the fucking time, and these smart fans know we're getting beat all the time, why don't we make it look like by throwing in 4 or 5 false finishes, we take them on a fucking roller coaster ride, we create doubt in the people's mind as who's going to win, then we convince them that the baby faces are going to win, and then we fuck them in the nick of time. That's what we had to do, so we came up with some false finishes that we thought the people would buy. And back then, once again, this is fucking 30 years ago, there weren't 18 false finishes in the end of every fucking match. You got heat on the baby faces. Babyface got a hot tag, made a big comeback. You did 2 or 3 false finishes. You went fucking home before you wore out your welcome, like every match does these days. But we decided we were going to take them on some twists and turns, so when that finally did happen and we fucked them and we pulled the fucking rug out from under them, the people that had a roller coaster ride, so maybe they'd be like, wow, and the baby faces would have appreciated their value in the fans' eyes in Baltimore, and it looked like we did something also. So, and you will notice when we watch this that unfortunately also I forgot about Mike Atkins, referee. He was Nick Patrick's understudy. And he's a nice guy, but he got lost as fuck on one of these false finishes and was distracted when he should have been counting, and then tried to go count when he should have been distracted. We will talk about that as it happens. But otherwise, the story going through this, when you watch it and you listen to our commentary, you're obviously not listening to the audio of the show. JR did a wonderful job, but more importantly was the sound of the crowd, because you will hear that it's about as tepid as you got for a pay-per-view back in those days for the Southern Boys entrance and for the first little part of the match, because they didn't know what to think about it. But the reason why we considered it a success was by the time that we started the heat, the fans had finally gotten behind the Southern Boys, and they got with them further through the heat. And by the time that we go to the false finishes at the end, they're popping and realizing that anybody can win at any given point. And even though we still got cheered when we did win, there was appreciation for the match in the building. So we kind of did the job we were supposed to do. And I think everybody agreed that, with the exception of Flair and Sting, this was the best match on the show. It was one of those ones that, who called it the best American tag team match of the year? One of our old friends with a newsletter somewhere. But anyway, so there you have it. That's kind of the setup on where we were in context, the match as it came about, what we were given, and now you can see and judge for yourself on what we did with it. And we'll go through it and pick out some little things.
Well, once again, Jim, I think we should remind everyone, if you're watching on the WWE Network, because obviously there are other sources as well, but on the WWE Network, you want to go to 45 minutes and 20 seconds into the 1990 Great American Bash, there's the option to jump to a specific scene. You want to clearly jump to the Midnight Express versus the Southern Boys. But if you're going by timestamp, it is 45:20 into the broadcast. And with that said, we'll do what we did last time. We will count down from 5 and then press play. Don't press play on 1. We will say to press play after 1.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, play. Right?
Right, but that wasn't the cue. That is an example of the cue that I will give momentarily.
Yes.
Jim, are you ready?
I'm ready.
With that said, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, press play.
And here we go. And you will notice this is the Baltimore Civic Center, later the Baltimore Arena. They're trying to copy Vince and the WWF, that giant fucking ramp all the way from the back. I hated this. Look, it looks like we're in a fucking warehouse. Look at that piss poor pyro, giant ramp with nobody on either side. We used to come to the ring surrounded by people. Yes, it was dangerous, especially for the heels, but this is completely the opposite direction. We should have come through the people with them making fucking noise and blah, blah, blah. It would have been more exciting, but they just walk to the ring and step in it. I hated this. The ramp got in the way when we, as you'll see here with our opening spot. But there's Steve Armstrong, Trace Smothers on the other side, the world's most dangerous announcer, Gary Michael Capetta in the ring. And now here we come. And that was the Southern Boys music that they picked, by the way, this network stuff. But this is the generic midnight music, which covers up the original miscue. We had to go because they're still not playing our fucking music. We're halfway down this ramp. We're jogging because there's no music. Then suddenly it starts coming in. They were late on it. And we said, fuck it. We're almost there anyway. But it just, I hated this ramp and the whole look of the thing. And that off-brand shot for no reason. Bad switch. They were trying to chase Vince and they couldn't do it. And then you will notice that almost all of the camera people, the floor cameras, are standing on the apron of the ring, shooting at the same level as the guys, there's Mike, or shooting down, which makes the bumps look smaller and less impressive. They were getting in over their heads with trying to chase the WWF. Bobby almost didn't notice the high five. Now, what we were going to do was jump start them, dust them up, chuck them out on the floor, and then go out after them and let the Southern Boys fire up on the floor, do a chase scene around the fucking ring, and goddamn get back in the ring and let Southern Boys be cooking. But once they got chucked out on the floor, we realized, number one, they go out there, the Southern Boys get excited and just start fucking throwing taters. And Bobby says, I can't go. I'm stuck with the ramp over here. And he got jammed up and the people were not with it anyway. Stan just bailed out. Bobby said, shoot me off and give me something. And we're going to slow this fucking down. So far, but the Southern Boys would not slow down, by the way. Double shoulder tackle. And there we go. Let me get the fuck out of here. And Stan takes 2 taters and says, what the fuck? All right, they're excited. The people are not real up. We're going to slow things down a little bit because we've got 20 minutes. That one didn't work. All right.
The WWF did not have a single referee with a mustache. Post Tommy Young, every WCW referee had a mustache.
Well, I think Mike was Nick Patrick's brother-in-law, now that I'm thinking about it. So they kind of looked alike. But anywho, Steve starts out first. And Steve, like every Armstrong, he could fucking work and he was so athletic. But Bullet had everything. And by the way, and the floor cameraman would not get off of my shoulder. He would not. It wasn't even Jackie Crockett. He wouldn't leave me alone. But Bullet had everything. Brad got the real pure work. Steve was the athlete. Scott was the fucking promo till Road Dogg came along. Road Dogg didn't get the physique, but he got the personality. But every one of the kids had something else. And I don't know why Steve put his hand on the top of Bobby's head on that lockup, but he had a different kind of lockup. But watch Bobby and bing! He comes from nowhere, and the shit looks good, and you never feel it. At this point, he figures, well, let's see if we can light him up a little bit. Give Steve a chance to foil a top rope move. Boom! Off to the fucking, on a slam. And here, I hate this angle. See this angle? It makes everybody look short. Love that flying fucking monkey flip. But do you see when the
Yeah.
handheld cameras are at that level, all the bumps look small, the drop kicks don't look big. You should be pointing up at it. Steve forgot. He's supposed to drop kick, go up to the top. But he smoothly turned around and, shit. And there's that clothesline. And where are we going to go now? Bobby's like, fuck, they're still not warming up to this. You can see the people, small smattering of applause. I think, I don't know what I'm telling him there. Possibly, I'm telling him I'm going to kill this fucking cameraman if he don't get off my back. Because I really didn't have any room for real. Anyway.
You still have that outfit?
I still have that outfit on my wall. Yes, I do.
I think I just saw John Arezzi in the crowd.
You may very well have. I'm sure he was there. Okay, nice little tag to Tracy. Let's get Trace in. And the double wind up, and a double chop. Boom. Tracy already at this point, you can see when he moves around, Steve was, like I said, more athletic. Tracy was a more solid worker all the way around. And you could depend on him not to get too far afield. And this is literally a real conference because remember, I've got my watch on. I'm keeping time. I don't think the referees were wired at this point. I don't think that we had IFBs. I think they took their cues from the timekeeper at ringside if he held up a pin or whatever, but you'd get a go-home cue from the referee. But I always like to not leave anything to chance, so I had the watch on and I was keeping time on our matches. Tracy with the drop down, but boom, Bobby goes low. Crossing him up a little bit just to give him a chance to do a little running spot. And here we go. Now we're going to set up Tracy's karate. Back fist and fucking kick to the head. And now, actually, that was not as extreme as the stuff Steve was doing, but he got a little bit better response from the people because it was just kind of unexpected.
And how much had you guys worked with the Southern Boys already by this point?
I'd have to get the Midnight Express book out, and I forgot to do that, but not extensively. We had a couple matches with them when they bought Florida in 87. At that point, and then they'd just been in here just a short time. This may have been one of the first ones. We like I said, Stan helped train Tracy and break him in. So we knew him, and Armstrong's an Armstrong. They can do anything. You just sit down and say, what's your best shit? Now watch Bobby again. The old Luthez elbow to the side of the fucking face with the slap, and bam, another couple. And
told Randy Atkins to shut up.
Yeah,
Mike Atkins.
Mike, yeah, you're the Randy Anderson. I wish we'd have had Pee Wee. And boom, and another kick right to the face. And I'm like, fucking holy shit. And Stan is screaming, goddamn, give him to me. Give him to me. Now, everybody knows from the past 3 years, Stan's the karate guy. He does the karate kicks. This is how you set a spot up to pay off later. You don't have to just do endless motion. And Stan had springs in his legs. He was so smooth. You don't have to do endless motion. You got to give them something they understand. Tracy Smothers has kicked Bobby Eaton's teeth down his throat twice with these karate kicks. So now we're going to get the karate guy in. Let's see what the fuck happens. They're interested in this story we're telling. This is where we start to get them, as you will hear when you listen to it with the sound. And of course, once again, we've got a black belt in Shotokan, and I think Tracy took some Taekwondo at one point, and Stan got a black belt in the 70s. So this doesn't have to be goddamn Jackie Chan. Just tell the fucking story. And Stan said, bang, bam, yeah, hot shot.
Fans are starting to react.
They're starting to come up a little bit. And watch Stan's face. Oh, shit. Now he goes from yeah to oh, shit, and a boom, boom, boom. The baby face gives you back what, and he was not far enough out on the kick, but he got one on Bobby and almost got one on me. That's what instantly the baby face gives the heel back in a quick succession. Look at those people now. Quick succession, everything the heel has given him over the past few minutes plus better, boom, and then everybody fucking reacts to it. That's a spot payoff. We took from 51:30 to 54 minutes to set that up and pay it off. And now the people are starting to say, well, these fucking kids, they ain't that bad, the Southern Boys. And they've got the Midnight Express going. This is more than we thought it was going to be. That's the story you're trying to tell. Now Stan's got to redeem himself, right? So let's settle this fucking thing down a little bit. Hold on here.
Hey, why is Apter at ringside and Linda Rufus behind the barricade?
I guess Bill knew somebody. Anyway, look at now. Stan is going to let the babyface out wrestle him, but look at Stan's aggression. He's trying to figure out drop toe hold. I've got him now. I've got him, and he floats right over, and Tracy gets the fucking hammerlock. And look, Stan's trying to find a way out of this. Finally goes to the fucking face. You take over, Bobby. And the way that they've done that is Stan has told Tracy, as soon as I tag out, arm drag Bobby. When he goes over and he tags Bobby, he just says arm drag. Bobby comes in, immediately takes an arm drag. This is being called as it happens. We didn't know what the fuck. We had Steve's big clothesline crossbody thing. We had the karate spot. We've got the big spot that the baby faces are going to do shortly, and our heat spot. Elsewise, everything's just fucking happening.
Bobby has the best right hand.
Yeah. And boom, and Tracy right over the top, and boom. This was different stuff than all the other baby faces were doing. So, and watch this. Tracy did this. He used to like to do this sometimes. And the people kind of fucking got with it. Backflip in and drop kick out.
Like you said, it was unique at the time, but also unique amongst the babyface tag teams. Rock and Roll Express. You have the Steiner brothers. The Southern Boys stood out because they were different.
And now, once again, the Midnight Express, Stan stops him. Now we're going into the big baby face's fucking spot. This is the big baby face spot before the heat spot. Shoot Tracy off double elbow, nail Steve. He's down on the floor. Now, if we can get Mike Adkins out of the way, we're going to shoot Tracy away from his partner. He ducks Bobby, rolls under Stan. Here comes Steve. Holy shit, what a fucking high cross body. And now we're doing the midget spot. We don't know who's gonna fin, who's gonna cover, whatever the fuck. It's bullshit. And heels head first together. Meeting of the minds, get out, let the baby faces shit. Now the people are going crazy for the baby faces. Now we've done exactly what we needed to do. And I tell Bobby in about 10 seconds, you can hear me say, it's time to do something. That's cue for the heat. As a matter of fact, it'll be right here. Time to do something. Now we're going to do the heat spot, and everybody knows it's coming. We've got them up as far as we can, the people. We've put as much credibility in the baby faces as kicking our ass as we can. So now we got to pull the rug out from under them. When the people are up as high as they're going to go and the baby faces are rolling, pull it right out from under them. If this had been the Rock and Roll Express, we'd have gone right into it. But we hadn't had as many matches with the Southern Boys, and they weren't as experienced. We couldn't call everything as quick, so just take a little break. Now we're doing our heat spot, Tracy. Here we go. Everybody knows where they're supposed to be. Boom. Here's a tag. Tracy didn't see it. I got the referee. Stan throws him over the top. I jumped down. That would be a disqualification if the referee had seen it. As I jump down, I tell him, get that other baby face where Stan can rough Tracy up on the fucking railway or railing. But the point is, and now look at the people. And now the people are halfway booing us where they were cheering us before because we had to fucking cheat to stop these kids. And at the same time, I only had the referee distracted 5 to 10 seconds for Tracy to get chucked over the top. And there's one little more distraction for a racket shot. One time I interfere in the match with the racket. Because fuck it.
Did Ole say anything to you afterwards?
No. He said, don't interfere in a finish.
That's true.
But anyway, I got stuck here because Steve was like, fuck, I got to do something. And the referee had to get out there. So anyway, and Tracy took a hell of a fucking spill against the railing again. And now he started to get a little sympathy because people went, ooh, at that because it looked like it hurt him. But that's the point. You have to fucking pull the rug out from under the people on the heat spot as quickly as possible and change the momentum entirely. And now we start doing the double team stuff. Ass bump into the fucking backbreaker. Boom. Nobody knows how to do a fucking ass bump anymore, much less into a backbreaker, which they also don't know how to do anymore. And this, once again, when you're getting the heat on the babyface, you've got to have him fight from underneath like Tracy's doing. Boom! Bobby liked that spinning from the left side clothesline, and you didn't have no choice but to go. I just gave Bobby a time cue there, I think. But you've got to put them in a hold once in a while so they can have pain on their face and they can struggle and they can writhe and you can see them fucking in pain, and then you hit them with another move and the impact, and then you let them see the guy's face again or see that they're in a predicament or whatever. You don't just keep picking them up and hitting them with shit and running them all over the place. Stan roughing Tracy up here, but I believe we're within a minute or so of having to go. I hate these camera angles. I like this one. Hate the other ones. Tracy firing up, trying to fight to the tag. Steve trying to reach. He's got his hand on the buckle. Can't make it. And now here's where Bobby's got to give him something off the top that he connects on, right? But when he hits the Alabama Jam, boom! He bounces up and he's hurt himself. And shit, he don't know what the fuck. And instead of covering, now he's got to tag out. It didn't fucking kill the move, but it still fucking hurt Tracy, right? So now Stan can fucking gloat, do all the fucking shit that Stan did, and fucking just let everybody in the front row sees. And also he's calling something. He just called, I think, Sunset Flip. Yes. Because now, boom, there's another hope spot. The babyface is still alive. Now he's got to go try to fight to the tag, but no, we're going to cut him off again. And now, boom, another double team. Really see, the pace is picking up now from where before they'd hit him in the backbreaker and put him in the hole, but now it's starting to pick up a little bit because you can't go 100 miles an hour and then finish the race at 60. Bobby's going to set up for a little something he wants to do here.
Now you got away from him. Normally you would have done something there, right?
Well, it's because Bobby was doing something. I can't fuck anything up here because Bobby's setting something up. What he's setting up, he tags and he fucking slingshots the babyface in, even though Tracy wasn't quite sure. I don't think he'd ever done that before. But Bobby's telling him what to do. So now he had tagged and slingshotted Tracy in, and Stan gives Tracy a bump. Cover, 1, 2, kick out. He's going to tag out again. Bobby's going to say, well, it worked the first time. God damn, we'll put him out on the floor. He just says, take a bump out. And this time, he's going to set the same thing up, but it's going to backfire. And he's going to get pulled out over the top. And it's going to give Tracy the chance to come in and fucking get stopped by Stan. But now Bobby's on the floor. So people are up a little bit with now it's just Stan against Tracy. Can Tracy make the tag? Oh, shit. Tracy stopped Stan. Bing, 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 bing. Little fucking facial gouge there. And I've just told Bobby, we got to go. Time for the fucking tag. And so there's a brief little fucking tag in, boom, there, because they've got to make sure the fucking tag is for the right guy to be legal and etc. That's why they did that. Nobody would know if they weren't looking for it. Tracy double sunset flips both fucking guys. Squirm, roll. Here comes Steve. Oh, shit. Heels put on the brakes. No, please. Just babyface stands in the middle of the ring and the fucking heels feed. Babyface doesn't have to go anywhere. When he shoots one off, he's going to do the double head coconuts again, but he shoots one off. Babyface still in the middle of the ring. Heel fucking bumps away from him. Now he's supposed to cover. He just thought for a second. And now Tracy makes the save on Bobby. Gets him out of the fucking way. Stan's still legal. This is their finish, the Southern Boys finish. They've won every match that people have seen them win with this move. And boom, that's where Atkins is supposed to go down to count. But he is distracted quick by something he shouldn't be distracted by. Go count, goddammit. Well, now Stan said, fuck it, I'm kicking anyway. Now take Tracy out, Mike. Thank you. That's what should have happened. But still, the people fucking bought it. Steve's going to go up to put him away. Bobby pushes him off, throat first to the fucking top rope. Now here comes Bobby up to the top. People have seen this 100,000 times, the rocket launcher. Okay, it was a great match, but this one's going to be it. Boom. And once again, count, Mike. Thank you.
People are all standing now.
The people are standing up. If we didn't have a green referee, I'd love it, because I was going, that's where I was like, motherfucker, you think you get this one? Okay. Tracy and Steve have just switched places. They're wearing identical outfits. Steve was rolled out. Tracy's there. Small package. People thought that was it. No. Here goes Stan. Gets nailed out on the fucking floor. Bobby's going to shoot Tracy to the other side and drop down. There's the kick to the fucking head. And there's the goddamn small package. And Mike turns around 1, 2, 3. And boom, that was it. So we gave them 4 or 5 really nice false finishes that would have been even better if the referee had cooperated by counting on them. And then gave them Ole's shitty finish. And look at the people. They're all standing up and they're all fucking clapping.
And you guys did end up stealing the show.
And we did end up stealing the show, but it was petty theft. And if you'll go by I think the replay is coming up here shortly, this actually looked better than I thought it was going to look. Watch how Tracy sells this. Bam! Even though Stan hit him instead of the back, he hit him on the sides, and Tracy sold the back of his head and into the fucking deal. It's a wrestling move. That was a good thing to end with. The fly in the ointment came on the 2 false finishes when we just were going too fast for the inexperienced referee, and he couldn't keep up with when he was supposed to count and then take somebody back. But we got by with it.
Now's a good time to stop the video, because it's the glammed up Freebirds here. No one needs to see this.
It's the fucking Freebirds meet T-Rex, and Mark Bolan did their makeup. And that's a good place, to stop it. But anyway, that was a match that accomplished what we set out to do. Not only to have a good match, but to get over by winning, to fuck the baby faces, to give them an out, to give the unfamiliar baby faces a great match, to increase the fans' perception of them. And even though we weren't being featured on television, steal the show from every other contracted talent, many of whom were being paid much more money than we were. So on all accounts, that worked out.
And it was the longest match on the show. Was that what it was supposed to be?
Yeah, well, that we didn't go over time. They gave us 20 minutes. We took 20 minutes. So it's not our fault. The rest of them couldn't keep up with all of us.
You know what we have to do one of these days? I'd love to hear you do commentary over Halloween Havoc 90.
Oh, good God.
It's a good match. It's a good match.
We'll do that for Halloween.
Okay.
Well, yeah, actually, here's the goddamn thing of it is, everybody, when they look back, the makeshift match where Robert Gibson was hurt and we wrestled Ricky Morton and Tommy Rich in the curtain jerker and lost was the best match on that show. So, I don't know. Anyway, nevertheless, that's a tag team watch along. See, that's why you listen to this program, folks. That's why you join the Patreon. Jim Cornette's College of Wrestling Knowledge. You get the insight. You see the little things. And then you understand how the little things stay little things until people make big things out of them.